ingredient safety for us. And I just assumed that it was safe for us, it was safe for the planet. But I quickly learned that wasn't the case. So it's important to know that there's currently no organization or mutually agreed definition of what is reef safe. If you ask different companies wandering around here or different companies in the world, what is reef safe, you're going to get 3 to 100 different answers. It's important for you to know, and I want you to be an informed consumer. I want you to help teach your students, clients, and customers how to be informed as well. You need to learn how to read the ingredients. It's the only way to know. So there's 2 different types of sunscreens in the world. You've got the chemical sunscreens and the mineral sunscreens. And my skin crawls a little bit when I say that because it's really UV absorbing sunscreens and UV reflecting sunscreens. When we talk about chemicals, I'm like, yeah, we're chemicals. Air we breathe is chemicals. So to say that something is a chemical and something isn't, but that's what the consumer understands. So chemical sunscreens are the UV absorbing sunscreens. These are regulated as drugs. All sunscreens are regulated as drugs in the United States. And these work inside of your body. Most sunscreens and what we all grew up with are the chemical absorbing sunscreens. You have to apply them to your body 15 to 30 minutes prior to exposure. And that's so those ingredients have time to soak into the fatty layers of your skin where they absorb the UV radiation and then your body has to deal with it. So that's why they're drugs, right? They work inside your body. They soak in what you're trying to protect yourself from and your body's got to deal with it. That concept has always creeped me out. That's what they do. The most common, of course, is oxybenzone. That's starting to change based on consumer awareness. Right on. The other type are the mineral sunscreens. Those are the UV reflecting sunscreens. You should see them when you put them on your body. They create a barrier on there and they reflect the UV radiation away, right? So there's 2 very common types. You've got zinc oxide and titanium dioxide. And I'm going to confuse it a little bit for you because not all mineral sunscreens are equal either, right? It's hard to teach consumers to flip it over and read the ingredients. But then we start saying, well, if it goes on clear, chances are pretty strong it's a nanoparticle. If it's a nanoparticle, it behaves differently in the environment and in your body than what it does in nature. So the easy way really to tell, first off, if it's non-nano, it'll say it on the label. But secondly, if it goes on clear, even if it says non-nano, that's the hard part. Even if it says non-nano, if it goes on clear, chances are pretty darn good it's a nanoparticle. So the clear non-nano zincs, those are nanoparticles smushed together, they're agglomerated, and they create a larger particle, which is why they can say they're non-nano. When they're ionized, which is subjected to salt on your skin or chlorine in the pool or salt in the ocean, they break apart and now they're nano again. So clear is not necessarily good either. They are much more stable, mineral sunscreens, than the chemicals, and they're a whole heck of a lot safer in general. I was going to go over some of the studies that have been done, and because it's easy, like I said, there's 100 different definitions of what is reef safe. And I was going to go over some of these, but literally there's thousands of them. When you go to PubMed or any of the research journals and you type in sunscreen toxicity, there's hundreds of them that talk about sea urchin recruitment, sea urchin toxicity, the algae larva, freshwater fish, saltwater fish. It mostly deals with the reproductive toxins, the reproductive toxicities. And then you start looking at the human side, and oh my God, that gets really freaky. You know, you can put on a chemical sunscreen onto your body, and 30 minutes later, the ingredients are detected in your urine. If you're a man, your estrogen content in your urine is significantly higher for the next 24 hours. It's pretty freaky stuff. Get the right clicker. So instead of going through a whole bunch of studies, I figured I'd just show you that. Go check it out yourself if you like. You can go to our website. We have a link that says ingredient to avoid, and you can click on it. It'll take you directly to a bunch of those studies. But basically, in a nutshell, the 2 most important ones for us, I believe, besides the human side, is that it transforms healthy coral, oxybenzone, transforms healthy coral larvae into deformed inert larvae. It also feminizes male fish. It's an estrogen mimic. These are the 2 primary reasons why most of the sunscreen ingredients out there are toxic for our coral and for our coral larvae and for all of the other species in our sea because they are endocrine disruptors. This is an interesting picture that I think is pretty dramatic to share. I don't know how many of you have seen this. Dan published it about a year ago, I believe. This is a friend of mine, Bill Precht. He sent it to us, and he's a coral scientist, works with NOAA. He's a great guy. He took a group of students out to do a coral survey. These are divers who are passionate about our ocean, right? He gives our sunscreen to all of his divers. One of them has sensitive skin, wouldn't use it. One with a monkey on it, sprayed it all over, rubbed it in. She's out there diving and the water was surging. She wound up hand planting this coral to avoid crashing into it. She didn't intentionally hurt it, but she hand planted it. He came back a day later and he saw that on there and it stayed for the next 6 months that he was studying in the area. Pretty impactful. The images on the top are healthy coral fragments that were exposed to oxybenzone containing sunscreen for 24 hours. They were completely bleached 72 hours later. So when I said that there's no worldwide standard on what is reef safe, that's starting to change. Dr. Craig Downs, if you're paying attention to the sunscreen world, Dr. Craig Downs is the foremost expert in the world. He's published a lot of studies. He's the one that told us that 62 parts per trillion of oxybenzone kills coral larvae. It's hard to imagine what 62 parts per trillion looks like, right? But that's the equivalence of 1 drop in 6 Olympic-sized swimming pools. So in addition to that, he started studying environmental concentrations, how much is actually out there. He looked at other ingredients and wanted to see what else would have these endocrine disrupting effects that might be affecting the environment. And he narrowed down, he said there's 13 ingredients that if you want to be a conscious consumer, that you should avoid for the environmental health as well as your own. And that is oxybenzone, octinoxate, octopyrylene, 4-methylcamphor. You don't really see that in sunscreens anymore. The FDA banned that one about 20 years ago. It's still used in other countries, South America and such. PABA, you don't really see that anymore. Parabens, we're still seeing that in a lot of formulas. Who doesn't know that parabens are bad? Come on, we don't need that in our world. Triclosan, that's used in hand sanitizers. Very toxic to the reefs. Use soap and water, cleans you off enough. Nanoparticles, again, nanoparticles. That's where it gets a little confusing on the mineral side. You need to make sure it says non-nano. And any form of microplastic. This image, I took this last week in my lab. There was a raw material supplier that came by and said there's this great ingredient that people are using in mineral sunscreens to boost the SPF efficacy of your sunscreens. He says you might want to check it out. And it comes to me in this box with this dead fish on it. Yeah, I did not want to check that one out. Resend that back. This is wrong. There we go. So with that Hereticus Environmental Labs, he's creating that standard, Protect Land and Sea. This is an announcement we'll be making early next year. We're going to do a big PR push over it. Really excited to announce that we're the first ones in the world to pass this standard. We're going to talk about that a whole lot, but I'm really excited about it. As far as I know, over 100 sunscreens have been submitted for this standard, which is an actual analytical test. We're the only ones that have passed. We did not pass the first time. Took some work to do it. So he's testing to environmental contamination levels. And we were able to improve our processes. We actually narrowed it down to a blue plastic drum that was letting off enough these UV chemicals because you have to protect the color. Not really, we don't care, we could care less. So we now ask for white plastic drums. I'd rather have stainless steel or glass, but that's just not gonna happen in our world. Anyway, we're very excited about that. So why are these ingredients bad? They're pretty much what they all have in common is that they're all endocrine disruptors. What is an endocrine disruptor? Messes with your hormones. Where do you find these endocrine disrupting chemicals? You find them in BPAs in plastics. We're carrying our metal bottles or the BPA-free bottles, perfumes, fertilizers, and sunscreens. But I say UV filters on here. It's more than just sunscreen. It's our lipsticks. It's our color cosmetics. It's our hair care. It's our hair conditioners. It's very prevalent in our world. Unless you're claiming SPF, you don't have to declare it on your label. So it's important to learn to read your ingredient labels. An endocrinologist stated the way estrogen works in a fish and the way it works in an alligator and a frog and a bird and a mouse and a woman is no different. And I'd like to say in coral, if you mess up the hormones, you don't reproduce. If you don't reproduce, you don't have a reef, right? So some members of our team, we like to say that we're protecting the babies, right? By avoiding these ingredients, we're protecting the babies of the reef, the babies in our world. Endocrine disruptors, they'll mess you up. Research shows that 13 of 29 sunscreen chemicals allowed in the US have the ability to reduce male fertility by exerting a progesterone-like effect. So it's increasing estrogen and progesterone in men. It's kind of freaky. And like I said, it's more than just sunscreen. A French study showed that more than 80% of our personal care products have these endocrine disrupting chemicals in them. If you don't shop in a health food store, you might want to start. Read your ingredient labels. the rest of the world's starting to pay attention. This is awesome. Hawaii is banning oxybenzone and octinoxate, if you want to be French. They corrected me. I've been saying it octinoxate forever. I'm going with it. They're banning it in 2020, Key West, 2021, provided Florida legislation doesn't pass preempting the bans. Everybody aware of that one? Key West banned banned these ingredients, and now the state legislature is trying to say that they're not allowed to ban these. It's the same law that is saying they're not allowed to ban plastic straws, plastic bags, or styrofoam cups. We'll try to make a bunch of noise and hopefully get some support against that one too. Bonaire is also coming into effect in 2021. Palau banned all the ingredients on the Hereticus list. So not just a few chemical ingredients, they banned all of them. Pretty cool. Mexico is starting to say that only biodegradable sunscreens are allowed. That's a start, but oxybenzone is biodegradable. So it's nice to look at that, but you've got to go a little bit further than just biodegradability. The U.S. Virgin Islands, I was involved in the legislation on that one, and they were talking about, again, just doing oxybenzone and octinoxate. The challenge with just banning oxybenzone and octinoxate is marketing companies are replacing oxybenzone and octinoxate with avobenzone and octocrylene. Now, I'm an organic chemist, so I look at that and I'm like, well, damn, that's stupid, right? But oxybenzone and avobenzone, they're pretty molecularly similar. Octocrylene and octinoxate are also very similar. I had one of the senators look up and say, well, octocrylene, I heard that ingredient messes with women's hormones. And I was like, oh, it's not just women's hormones. It reduces sperm content, it reduces sperm motility, and it disrupts testosterone production in your body. I'm like, what? We showed them some studies, they banned all three, which is awesome, because you can't use avobenzone if you don't use octocrylene. So basically they did a mineral-only ban without necessarily knowing it at the moment. Very cool. Because of all the activity that divers have been making, talking about Reef Safe sunscreen, the FDA had to take a look at it as well. Why are these ingredients toxic? They're toxic because they're endocrine disruptors. If they're endocrine disruptors, the FDA has to be involved. So the FDA this year did a pilot study. This is pretty rare in the FDA's world. But back in the 70s, when the FDA first reviewed most of these sunscreen ingredients, they didn't realize that, first off, that we were going to use as much as we do. They didn't apply it, every 80 minutes throughout the day over and over again. And they didn't accept that the skin was such a wonderful transdermal barrier of these chemical ingredients. So they did a pilot study showing that applying these ingredients, they did oxybenzone, avobenzone, octinoxate, and E-Cancel, which is one they were trying to approve, applied it regularly, I think it was 6 times a day, about the entire body. After 4 days, they were saying that there was significantly higher than toxic levels in their body. They stopped. They've called on industry to provide data showing that it is safe and effective for humans. As far as I'm aware, nobody has submitted any data showing that it is actually safe. I don't think we'll be able to. The FDA has pulled back on saying that it's generally recognized as safe and effective, stating that only titanium dioxide and zinc oxide at this point are generally recognized as safe and effective. What that means is you're not going to see a whole lot of sunscreen development for a while outside of the mineral sunscreens, which is great. So the labeling workshop, my goal again, is for you to be able to move beyond the marketing information that's on the front, be able to read the back, and know if a product is safe or not, okay? So I went to Amazon, I searched for reef-friendly sunscreens. Of course, mine comes up. These are 3 of the brands that we'll be looking at quite a bit. Flipping over the back, this is my ingredient label on there. We're proudly stating 8.8% titanium dioxide, non-nano. Again, these are regulated as drugs, right? So the front of the label, there's not a whole lot of marketing, there's not a whole lot of regulation over what we're allowed to say on the front, or what we can say. We have to put the size of it. Obviously, you have your name, the SPF is required, if you have it, whether it's broad spectrum. But the other stuff that you say, sensitive skin, safer face, clear coconut spray, that's not that regulated. What's on the back is very regulated. I say on the back, the uses helps prevent sunburn. The FDA says we're allowed to say that. The warnings, you have to say that. It's regulated by the FDA. Apply liberally 15 minutes before sun exposure. I really wish I didn't have to say that, because if anybody's used my sunscreen, good God, don't apply it liberally, right? But according to the FDA, I have to tell you that. It's important to look at the inactive ingredients as well. Savvy formulators, we can bury stuff in there to where you're probably not even gonna bother looking, but a savvy consumer will know to look a little bit further. So when you look at these things, deionized water, aqueous extracts, you can put your extracts at the front, that's great. Anything that's 1% or less, you can put in any order. So you can have 50 ingredients that are 1% or less and can be in any order in the back. You wanna make sure you're looking for some of those preservatives as well, because preservatives are one of the harshest ingredients inside of a formula. So you wanna look for the preservatives and the petroleum-based ingredients. We'll be passing out ingredient to avoid cards if we haven't already that shows you some that you definitely wanna be looking out for. Here's another one. It says oxybenzone free. Again, Hawaii has brought to attention that you shouldn't have oxybenzone in it. People are saying, look out for oxybenzone. That's great. What about avobenzone? What about octinoxate? What about octocrylene? So this one has, what is it, 5, 15, 18, 21.75% chemical UV filters in this formula, and it's being marketed as a Reef Safe brand. Kind of ticks me off. Love That Sun Natural Sunscreen. This one actually made me laugh out loud in the store. I look at it, natural sunscreen. This has 15, 17, 20%. 20% very, very synthetic ingredients in this formula. I'm not even showing you the inactives because those were just disgusting. And yet it says that it's a natural sunscreen. What is natural about this? The aluminum can, maybe? Maybe? I don't know. There's nothing natural about that. This is one that a friend sent me recently saying that she found, I think it was in Mexico. Wanted to know if it was good because on the front it says biodegradable, so it's compliant. They were selling it there. And I was looking a little bit closer. My eyes aren't so good. So over here we got octocrylene, benzophenone 3. What's benzophenone 3? Anybody know? Oxybenzone. Yeah, same thing. This one has parabens in it, retinol palmitate, which is not good if you're in the sun, all kinds of nasty stuff, but it's biodegradable, good for them. This is one that we found here last year, I think. It has 34% UV chemical ingredients, so it said this was biodegradable and fish friendly. I don't know what would make it fish friendly, but 34%, including 6% oxybenzone. This one I found in the Virgin Islands a couple months ago. It has, let's see, 33% chemical UV absorbers, and it actually says reef friendly on it. What the hell? Again, it doesn't have oxybenzone in there. So this is where the Hawaii legislation has opened up a whole new marketing realm for savvy sunscreen manufacturers to take out one ingredient, replace it with another, and slap on a Reef Safe label. So again, it's very important for you to understand that sunscreens in the United States are regulated as drugs, right? Because they work in the body. You're going to see a lot of changes in the legislation. You're going to see a lot of changes in labeling over the next few years because they're bringing it into question. They're looking at the fact that they're endocrine disruptors. They realize it. I think you're going to start seeing prescriptions. If you need to use an SPF 100, they're going to give you a prescription for it because it's not going to be legally allowed to be sold because these ingredients really are harmful for your body. Now, real quick before I move on, the SPF side of it, one of the questions that we get very often is, I need an SPF 100 or I need an SPF 50. We did a survey recently and found that it was the majority of the people thought that an SPF 30 blocked 25% of the UVB rays. Does anybody know how much SPF, let's say SPF 30, how much does that block for you? That's our highest level. 97, awesome. It's 97.4% of the UVB rays. An SPF 20 will block 95%. An SPF 50 will block just under 98%. It's less than a 1% increase from an SPF 30 to an SPF 50. The only way to get there is either to use so much minerals that you're gonna have paste on your face and you're never gonna use it again, or you have to use some of these really harsh ingredients that are detected in your urine, are detected in your bloodstream. They're detected in 85% of mother's milk today. It's being detected in more than 80% of babies that are born today. So when they test babies' bloodstream, these ingredients are being found in there. If that doesn't freak you out, we can talk about the reef all we want. Let's talk about us too, right? These things, we don't want them in the world. And it's so easy to get rid of. All you have to do is just flip over the bottle. Look at what's in there, right? So mineral sunscreens take a little bit more effort, right? Anybody in here not see the guy walking around that looks like Casper the Friendly Ghost? I thought I was being punked a little while ago. It was over the summer. We went to Rainbow Reef Dive Center and I'm sitting there at Sharky's outside and having a cup of tea, and here comes this guy walking out of the office and sits down right in front of me, and literally, it was just completely covered. And I was sitting there like, oh God, okay, where's the camera? Right. This guy can't possibly read it. And I had to sit there and talk to myself for a few minutes, and I really should go talk to him, right? I should. He used my product, it looks ridiculous. I went over and talked to him, I explained it to him, like, okay, so the amount that you use, it's awesome. Rock the white, that's great. You're being eco-conscious. Use 1/16 that amount. But the bottle says apply liberally. I'm like, oh, I know, it's a problem in my world. All right. So, it's a challenge. We need education out there. We need your help supporting it. My company has grown at a tremendous rate. This is our 4th year at DEMA, and it is crazy. I had no idea we were going to grow this fast. We built a new warehouse this year to keep up with your growth. The reason we're growing is because of you. It's because of all of the people out there that are sharing our message. It's not because I'm some savvy marketer and my team is great at marketing. They're actually getting pretty darn good. But it's because of all the amazing ambassadors out there that understand that every drop in the bucket adds up. You know, when you talk about going out into the middle of nowhere and using a safe sunscreen, they say, does it really matter? Well, for your body, it sure as heck does, you know? But what it really is it's a symptom of unsustainable tourism. When you go into these popular tourist destinations and we're teaching people how to dive and you're putting lots of divers in the water, yeah, it matters. 62 parts per trillion. If you can change one boat, you made a difference, right? And you guys are doing that for us, so for that I am grateful. The last one that I'm going to bring up is defog. We launched our defog this year. We've got samples for everybody if you haven't tried it yet. So when we talk about the ingredients that are in reef safe products, what does it mean, right? It's not just our sunscreens. Every bit of product that we're putting in there. When I got back on that boat in Palau, I looked over and there was a woman showering on the dive deck, right? And there's these pearlescent fragrant scents running overboard. And I'm looking down at this beautiful reef and I'm seeing Nemo down there just going like, right? I mean, if you want to go into an eco-tox lab and know what's toxic for the environment, if you want to find the ingredient that's going to have 100% mortality, grab sodium lauryl and lauryl sulfate. That'll do it. Just put a little bit of that into a tank and every fish is going to die. Guess what's in our baby shampoo? The vast majority of them have sodium lauryl and lauryl sulfate, especially the big cheap stuff that we all use for defog. Don't do that. You don't need to. Anyway, we made a great one. It is basically our shampoo. We took the fragrance out. We took the hair conditioning ingredients out. We optimized the pH for your eyes, and it works great, right? So it's more than just your sunscreen. I would like for you to start paying attention to the other ingredients in your showers, the other ingredients in the products you're putting on your body every day, for your planet and for yourself. Remember that 80% of body care and sunscreen products that are sold in the United States contain estrogen or estrogen endocrine disruptors. That's pretty freaky. 80% of them. The chemical sunscreens harm the endocrine system of the reefs. It's the same thing, right? Fish, coral, and us. It's the reproduction. The endocrine disruptors are implicated in many human health issues as well. It's implicated in all sorts of different cancers, human health issues, reproductive. We were talking earlier today, how many people 30 years ago did you hear about saying, we're trying to get pregnant, we're doing hormone therapies, in vitro fertilization? You might know one or two, right? Today, it's like every other person you talk to, they're saying, oh yeah, we're trying to have a baby. Shouldn't have to try so hard. Just clean up some of the stuff that you're putting on your body and in your environment. I don't want to get too marketing on you, but we have the only line of mineral-based sunscreen and body care products that's tested and proven not to harm humans, freshwater fish, saltwater fish, and coral larvae. I thought that was really important before we launched the product line. Again, cosmetic chemists have been making products that are safe for us for 20 years. When I launched String to Sea, I didn't know if it was going to be safe for us. How do you know? I mean, it's safe for the environment. I know how to make stuff that's safe for us, but how do you know if it's going to be safe for fish without testing? We had a customer come by yesterday saying that they won't buy our stuff because we tested on fish. I'm like, I get it. I was one of the original signers of the Leaping Bunny program, the campaign for safe cosmetics. That was back in the 90s. I sat in a room with Burt's Bees and Aubrey Organics and Badger, and we're talking about the fact that we don't need to test on bunnies to know if something is safe for our eyes, right? I mean, there's so much history of use. We know what ingredients are going to hurt us. How do we know what ingredients are going to hurt our fish or our coral without testing? You think you know. I formulated a shampoo with only EcoCert approved ingredients. It was Whole Foods compliant. held all the standards. I sent it off for aquatic toxicity because I didn't know, and I failed. It was really important to me. So our entire product line is tested and proven safe. Woman-owned, veteran-operated, made in the US, right down the road over here. We're in Wauchula, Florida. We just built our warehouse, really excited about that. We were using a co-packer, and they were struggling to keep up with production. We won't have that issue anymore. Really exciting. And if you haven't already, please come by us at 446, and I'm happy to answer any questions for you. I really want you to understand how to, don't just believe it, right? Don't just believe what we're telling you. I want you to be an informed consumer and teach people how to flip over that bottle and learn for yourself how to know if a product is safe. Thank you for coming. Questions? I couldn't have answered all of them. Yes, ma'am.
The baby shampoo you talked about earlier.
Sure.
So sorry. Is that harmful to people like everything else is, or it just has harmful chemicals for the ocean?
So sodium lauryl sulfate will strip the color out of your hair. It's used as engine degreasers. It's very harsh. Does it have endocrine disruption effects? I haven't heard of it. You know, I know there's not a health food store in the world that would agree that it was safe. I do know there's a lot of people that say that it's derived from coconut. And that's one of my pet peeves as well as a natural products cosmetic chemist, right? How much can you mess with a coconut and still say it's a coconut, right? I mean, that product was a coconut a whole long time ago. Yeah, so I would say avoid it just for the health of your hair.
Yeah.
But as far as the aquatic toxicity, absolutely. What else you got? Weather outside's lovely, right? Love it. Yes, ma'am.
You guys talking about baby shampoo often late. Is this comfortable to use on babies? Like, this is all good for your body, so it's
Yeah.
for all in the stages of human life, right?
That's a great question. So products that are safe for the whole family, right? So we're working on a sunscreen right now for children and for babies. There's different ingredients that you can use. There's different pH balances. Really, if you're making something that's safe for the environment, in my opinion, the products that we're making are all safe for babies. You do a little bit more testing and you run it through like pediatrician approved and such. But yeah, absolutely. I would absolutely say that this could be used as a baby shampoo. And the sunscreens are excellent to use on children and the entire families. Under 6 months, there's regulations on that. Yes, Megan?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, somebody brought up to me one time, and I thought it was a really interesting concept. Do you test each chemical or minerals and stuff
That's a great question.
individually, or do you test together?
That's a great question. So I've heard some arguments out there that it's not the ingredients, it's the product itself. And I go back to like chicken nuggets, right? You know, you talk about the chicken nugget, you've got this great little crispy patty that tastes delicious and it's lovely. And if you look at the history of it, it was this pink slime that went in. It's absolutely disgusting goo, right? I'm not eating that crap, right? It's bad ingredients to make what they're saying is a good product. I have issues with that. But as far as our testing goes, when we originally started, I tested the finished products. And just to be perfectly clear, we're not testing on animals. We're not testing on fish. We did test all of our formulas, right? So it's not like we have bouts of dead fish floating around because that would just make me cry. But when we originally failed, I had to go back and figure out what ingredients they were. So I went back and looked at C. elegans, which I didn't know what they were before I started working with an ecotoxicologist. But C. elegans they're little nematodes. They're a fast-growing worm that luminesces different colors when it's really stressed out. And they have a very fast reproductive cycle, and it's the first species that they map the entire genome on. So they're able to tell when something is an endocrine disruptor by subjecting this organism to it. So I was able to isolate which ingredients in our formulas were causing this toxicity and speed up the development process. So we wound up on the shampoo, I had to go through 2 trials. By the time we got to the sunscreens, we only had to do 1 of each, and we all passed.
So you do test it together, or you test the finished product as well?
Exactly.
Okay.
And then if the finished product didn't pass, we went back and looked at different ingredients.
Which one was?
Right. So at this stage, I have a pretty good library. I know pretty much. As long as I'm using within this library, we're good. If I want to bring something else in, obviously if it comes with a little image of a dead fish on it, I'm not going to use it. It's much easier for me today than it was 5 years ago to formulate because there's more people asking about aquatic safety. The raw material suppliers are doing a lot more of this testing for us because they're marketing it, and the material safety data sheets more often are coming to us with aquatic safety listed on it. which is, I mean, it's great.
What was the product with the dead fish on it again?
That was, I mispronounced it, bisabolol. It's Bisabolol, and it's an extract that they use to boost the SPF rating. So it reduces the redness of the skin, which gets you a higher SPF factor. Which I thought there might be some ethical issues with that too, because it's really not improving the SPF properties, it's just reducing the redness of your skin, which gives you a higher SPF rating, right? So as a cosmetic chemist, I was intrigued by that, but then again, these things that make me wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning saying, what? That didn't sound right, but that was the ingredient. And it's an extract. It's an extract, but I think it's extracted with hexane, and maybe it's the hexane that made it have that, but they don't have to disclose hexane on there. Right, there's a lot of things you have to think about when you're making these products. Yes, ma'am?
How long did it take you from concept to product on the shelf?
It's a great question.
How that process and how long that took you?
It was about 14 months. About 14 months. From the time that I came back from that trip from Palau and quit my job to having the product line ready to launch on the market, it was about 14 months. And I would say that it was only 14 months because I had all the experience formulating products already.
Sure.
And I didn't have to hire a chemist to do it for me. Yeah.
And did you look into a lot of other brands before you did
Oh,
that,
yeah.
just to see if it was an option?
Absolutely.
And you were probably like, oh my God, this isn't even an option.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I was actually really offended by some of what I saw out there. And it's not easy to offend me. You can say all sorts of things to my face, and I'm like, yeah, right on, let's go get a beer, right? But some of the things that I saw out there in the marketplace offended me, and I was like, yeah, let's bring it on, let's do it. Yeah.
Do you have plans of expanding, go into like other skincare or anything else?
When it makes sense, absolutely. Like right now, we're working on a sunscreen stick. So it's ready. It's been ready for months. You know what the problem is? The packaging. The stupid packaging. I don't want to put it in a little metal tin, right? Because I don't want to stick my fingers in it because I think that's gross. And I don't want to put it in a typical stick because they're plastic and I can't get them out of PCR resins or biodegradable plastics. So you have the paperboard tubes that you can use, but the paperboard tubes, let's throw that in our dive bag, throw it on the boat, and it's going to biodegrade before I get home, right? So I'm struggling with this. There's hemp-based plastics, there's all sorts of other cool things in the world, but you got to buy 100,000 of them in order to start. I can't afford 100,000 of them. So I'm playing with that, trying to figure out what am I going to put it in. And we were playing with like, okay, soap bar. Everybody's using like these Lush bars. Maybe we can do a soap bar. Thought that might be kind of neat. But then I'm playing with it, and it's gooey and gacky on my hands, and I don't like the feel of it. So I put it back in the bag, and I think about it again in a couple weeks. Right. But yes, there's a lot of products that I have in my head, and of course I do it kind of selfishly. It's like I want a good deodorant, so I'm making a good deodorant. That works, right? And doesn't give bumps under your skin, right? I found some that actually work, but then you wind up with bumps, and then it's like, oh my God, do I have breast cancer? No, it's just bad deodorant. You have to play with all that. We're getting a lot of requests. Yeah, it needs to hold up to Florida in August and Texas in August. Yeah, I'm with you, sister. We'll work on that one together. I'll send you samples if you don't mind being guinea pigs. I have had members of my staff. I have a shower in my bathroom, and I've had members of my staff saying, "Oh God, you have to stop working on that one." Bad news. They go, all right, we'll put that formula in the trash can. We'll start over. There's wetsuit rinses, the defog start. I'd really like to make a boat wash. When I look at the Simple Green and some of the things that we're using on the boats, I'd really like to make us a boat wash. Nobody lists ingredients, right? What's in this stuff? They're saying that it's safe, but what's in it? Yeah, it's green. What are they using for the green? Blue number 3, yellow number 2? I don't like that. So I think there's a lot of different directions to go as we grow. The testing and the packaging is really expensive. So as we can afford it, we'll grow more.
There have been some companies that are just not a lot in the US, but I've seen a lot in Europe where they're taking like shampoo or I don't know, any kind of stuff like that, and it's in a jar, and then you kind of go get it refilled, or there's
The refilleries.
refill it,
Yeah.
refill it, and it's like a little metal tin.
I love it.
Refill it.
I love it. And they're doing it with glass jars. They're doing it with their own bottles. Our holiday promo this year, we're doing little silicone toddles. So you'll have to sanitize it like you would a baby bottle. The little silicone refill bottles. I love it. We've got quite a few refilleries in like the natural products industry that we work in. So our other market, I love the dive industry, this is my home, but my background is in the natural product space, right? So you can find us in Whole Foods and in a lot of smaller health food stores. We're starting to get a pretty good following in the refilleries. So, and the liverboards. We're doing these 2.5-gallon jugs that they're able to use to refill their bathroom dispensers. And I think that's amazing. Let's get rid of the single-use plastics. We're just launching on the cruise ships. Virgin Voyages just brought us on board, MSC just brought us on board. And I have friends saying, oh my God, I can't believe you're working with them, they're evil. And I'm like, but how cool that they're not gonna have toxic crap going into their wastewater anymore from their shampoo. This is awesome, right? I mean, it's every bit adds up. It's like organic milk in Walmart. Some people say that's evil. I say it's freaking awesome. Yeah, that's great. Let's get the masses to use the good stuff. That's cool, get them thinking about it.
I had a hard time going to the Bay.
Yeah.
Every one of their shampoos 3 years ago had oxybenzone and other such things. I don't think they even added titanium.
Yeah. That's starting to change. The mentality in Hanauma Bay and in Hawaii is starting to change. But you're absolutely right. That's one of the things I hear people say, well, the sunscreens haven't been proven. These studies that I'm referencing are all bogus and BS because it hasn't been tested in real life. They're like, yeah, it was done in a lab. I'm like, oh, would you like us to dump a 55-gallon drum out into the reef every day? Oh, right, we already did that. We did that in Hanauma Bay. What's up with Hanauma Bay? It's dead, right? They've taken it out. There's education, there's science up there. The ban hasn't been impacted yet, but you're starting to see signs of life. You're starting to see signs of regrowth. It's looking a little better. They said the bleaching event that they expected this year didn't come, even though the temperatures were warmer. Why? These UV ingredients, these UV absorbers that we're putting into the reefs have been shown to reduce the temperature that healthy coral will bleach, right? So if it normally bleached at 92, 87 to 92, it's now gonna bleach at 85 to 88. We've taken these ingredients out. Beautiful. It doesn't take much. Our planet wants to recover, right? I mean, even some of the stuff that you go into the doom and gloom, we don't have to. Little changes. I mean, Hanauma Bay, I believe it can come back. We just gotta do what we're doing. Yeah. Hey, Jenny.
Hi. Can you tell me about how you came up with the name Stream to Sea? I love it because, right, we're all connected, we're all linked.
Absolutely. So Stream to Sea, how did I come up with the name? I was talking about all kinds of different names, and I'm saying, well, all streams flow to the sea, so we need to pay attention. It's the freshwater resources, the saltwater resources, it's the aquifers, it's our springs, it's the lakes, it's the rivers, because my passion is the ocean. And all streams flow to the sea, and I kept saying that, all streams flow to the sea. Oh, that's a good name. Thanks.
What's the worst one you came up with? No, I'm just kidding.
I've blocked that out of the business. I've had lots and lots of bad ideas. I'm sure we'll get more. Yes, ma'am.
Did you do anything different to certify for freshwater versus ocean?
That's a great question. Did we do anything different to certify for the freshwater versus the ocean? We didn't do anything different to certify. We did do something different in the testing. So when we started with biodegradability testing, before I went on to the aquatic toxicity, I wanted to make sure that all of the formulas were readily biodegradable in freshwater and saltwater, right? So the biodegradability, that was a lesson for me. If you go to a typical EPA lab and you want to study for biodegradability, they take your product and they put it into a test tube and they add some sewage sludge to it, and then they see how quickly it breaks down. It releases carbon dioxide at a certain rate, and they calculate the degradation of it based on that. I'm like, wait, why are you adding activated sewage sludge poop to my products? And they said, well, that's what we care about, right? We want to know how it's going to break down in the wastewater treatment facilities. I can care less about the wastewater treatment facilities I do today because I'm talking to Virgin Cruise Lines, and they care about that. But at that stage, what I really want to know is if you go take a shower in the river and you wash, how's it going to happen downstream? So I had to contract with a lab. It was Northeast University's. The results are all posted on our website under testing. And they had to create a new test method that was using just fresh water that they went out and collected from a local river. And same thing with the salt water that they went out and collected from the coast. And they recorded all of that, and that's when they tested it without using the activated sewage sludge. And I remember them saying to me, you know, it's gonna make it a lot harder to pass, right? I'm like, yeah, that's okay. Because if it doesn't pass, I've got to work harder on my formulations. Great question, thank you. Anya thought I had too many slides. I think we're 2 minutes early. This is pretty awesome.
Do you
They-
go around a lot and do those kinds of things?
Every chance I can. Yeah, I'm a nervous public speaker, so my New Year's resolution this year was to accept every speaking engagement that I could get, because the only way you get better is by doing it. So I've done a bunch this year.
How small do you do?
Depends if I'm in the area, there's good diving offered. That's the way to convince me. Say you'll take me diving. Okay. Or Mike says, watch my budget. Mike is my business partner, and he says, do it online. I don't have to fly to Honduras. But I think I do have to fly
I
to
went
Honduras.
through UBC and they talked about your products
Right.
and stuff, and they definitely promoted it, but I
Yeah.
didn't get the educational backstory. So much so as I was still using, I hate to say this, but I'm gonna say it anyways, I was
Yeah.
using baby shampoo for
Yeah.
defog. And we just happened to talk about
Sure.
the shirt that I'm wearing, and she showed me they were making defog, and I didn't know, and then I told her what I was using, and she told me, and I broke my heart because I had no idea what I was doing. And I would love to be able to kind of do this with my students back home.
Fantastic.
Just to give them, because I do, they are interested, and they do want to know, but I don't quite, like,
Yeah.
I'm absorbing this,
Right.
to not just memorize that.
Yeah, well, let me
So-
help you. Yeah, you've got questions, I'll make sure you have my card. And I am working on building out our YouTube channel. I'm working on doing small snippets of trainings. And what I really need is 1,000 other people out there helping to train the smaller groups for us. And you don't have to do it perfectly. Just asking the questions. We talked about that, right?
Yeah.
You don't need 1 million people doing things perfectly or 1,000 people doing things perfectly. You need 1 million people trying. Yes, ma'am.
Can I just comment on what you were just saying? It's okay. This is definitely a learning process for all of us. And part of so we can hear something today, in 10 years, we might not actually be safe. It's definitely more of a know better, do better kind of situation. So, and it's okay to change our minds with incoming data, right? As we get data showing something isn't working or isn't safe, we simply update to new ways of doing it. It's perfectly fine to have been using baby shampoo as defog up until the moment you walk in the store. Now you know better. Now you're not going to make that. So it's really fine. And that's how we learn. That's okay. Don't be nice to yourself.
Yeah, the biggest impact, the biggest, I guess, guilt that I have is I am a dive instructor, and so many of my students are like, what do you use? What do you want? And I tell them, and they buy it.
So take pride that tomorrow you'll do it a little bit better.
Sooner, you know.
Right,
But
right.
I want
You
to
gotta
go
celebrate
home and
that.
I want to invite all of my students over and be like, please stop using
Yeah.
this.
That's awesome. That's awesome. See, Megan, thank you so much. Thanks, everyone. I really appreciate it. And again, it's evolving and changing. Thank you.
Thanks, Autumn.